everybody, this is Luke Bensi again with Soteria. I'm here with our mascot Bandit, and in this video series we're going to be talking about the back end of the Soteria system, the dashboard. So if you remember, in the other videos we talked about your assessors going out in the field and performing the assessment using the MSAP, the Mobile Security Application Program. Now this information gets sent back to the dashboard where a chief security officer, a security director, or a facility security officer will be able to see the information and be able to manage all of the facilities and assets across the globe and also know the different threat levels of them in real time. So it's updated regularly. So we'll go in and we'll just drive the system. So let's take a look. All right, everyone. In this video, we'll be demonstrating the back end of the Soteria system, basically showing you the dashboard. And this is used to assist you in writing your reports. It's also used for security directors or chief security officers to be able to monitor all of the assets that they have. So on the first screen that you're looking at here, you've got a little pop-up box that says critical alert. What this is basically telling you is that you have something that is overdue or something that is coming up for inspection. You really can set these alarm levels however you want them. But in this particular one, there's an emergency evacuation of an asset that's popping up to alert you that you need to address this. So you can set the alerts any way you want. I'm just going to dismiss it for now. So I dismiss that, and what you see is I've got 3 speedometers up here. When I click on the certain zone, it shows me a color for that particular facility. So, for example, on the left here, we've got Facility Group United Kingdom, elevated score in yellow, Facility Group Beta Test Sites. This is low, it's in the green, means everything is safe, everything's fine. And then over here, the Facility Group in the United States, the overall score, we're in severe. Now, you can have, we've got 3 up here right now. You can put 64 up on this screen. I wouldn't recommend that. I usually keep it for our facilities maybe around a dozen per screen or half a dozen, whatever your preference is. But let's click on this now. We see we're in the red, so we're just going to simply click on this. And what's going to happen is it's going to take us to this actual location or locations here that are in the red. So as you can see, we're in the severe score, level 5. This was what that little criticality box was popping up. We've got a location here in Seattle. You can see it's warehouse number 11. We've got this other one here, warehouse number 12. And again, things that need to be done, vulnerabilities that need to be addressed are here in the red, and things that are recently mitigated and taken care of here are okay in the green. So that's just a very basic, quick overview. I'm not going to go into in-depth detail on everything. I just kind of want to show you the capabilities of the system in a short video. So that basically gives you your overall rankings, or not rankings, but basically things that are outstanding or issues that are due, and it does so by alerting you with the color code system. It also gives you a little beep too, so that when you log in your computer, if you just leave the dashboard up, if something comes up that is in a critical state, and again, you set these for however you want it, it'll beep as a reminder. So it's a great, I don't want to call it a calendar tool, but it certainly will remind you, within 3 days, 3 weeks, 10 days, however you set it, to an important facility that needs an issue that needs to be addressed. So let's go through now the different assets and the assessments that you have in here. So if you see in the upper left-hand corner, we're on the overview screen. Let's go now here to this button, Assessments. So I click on Assessments, and what you'll see is the main active assessment screens comes up, and what you'll see is we have new assessments on the left-hand side. These are our new assessments that need to be completed. I've got ones that are in progress that I'm currently working on, and then I have the approved ones here. So if you need to send a finished assessment to your supervisor for him to chop off on or her to chop off on, they can do that, push that forward. They can also send it back to you with comments and say, hey, I disagree with this, or you need to make changes. And then you can archive all of your assessments as well. This one that says down here, start new assessment, 5 remaining. So basically when you purchase the Soteria system, you get a set amount of assessments that you can perform over the course of a year or per month, however you want to do it. And this will just tell you how many you've got. So what I thought we'd do is I've got a little demo here for a shopping mall. Let's click on that. And again, remember, Soteria is the back end to what we call the MSAP. The MSAP being the mobile security application program. That's when we're out in the field as assessors, or we send our team out in the field. They're using their smartphones or they're using their tablets to collect the information on the ground. So let's say I did this myself, or I sent somebody else out. I had them to go out and do a shopping mall. So you'll see on the first screen here, the general basic information. And again, this is all populated by somebody's phone out in the field. They put in, okay, it's a demo, it's a shopping mall. This is the date. This is the facility. So let's say you're doing a campus, and there's certain buildings on the campus. This could be for a particular building. You've got your lead assessor names, your supporting assessors. And then here for sector, we are using the Department of Homeland Security 16 critical sectors that they've identified. So a shopping mall would fall under the commercial sector, and then there's additional boxes. This would be retail. And that's sort of just your basic introductory screen. Now, you can move through the screen by using the next button here. You can also drive it anywhere here on the left-hand side. You have an option, but if you just do want to go step by step, you're not sure, you can simply click through the next buttons. So on this first one that it clicks over, you see our asset overview. So just like we're showing here, the HVAC system of the shopping mall, we've got it here on our screen. Now, again, when you conduct the vulnerability assessment, as we like to say, you're racking and stacking your assets. And the assets that are most vulnerable, or the assets that are most at risk. So in this particular sample, this hypothetical scenario, we're saying that the HVAC system is an area of concern for us. So, you put in the asset name, HVAC system, a very brief description of it, air quality and filtration system located throughout the mall. You can go as in-depth as you want on this. You see this box here, include an executive summary. I'll show you this later, but basically this means if you want this text included in your executive summary, it'll automatically drop it into the final report for you. Below here, I've got the asset prioritization. Basically, you're saying how important is this asset to the system overall. You've got your mission functionality, and it gives you a definition. If you just hover your cursor over this, mission functionality, it'll show you a measurement of the role of key personnel, equipment, facilities, activities, or capabilities required to fully conduct operations. And then you have this drop-down menu of is it no risk, negligible risk, moderate, critical, catastrophic? We'll just say it's critical in this case. And you can even get a definition for each of those, again, just by hovering over. So a critical risk is the ability to carry out a primary mission of a unit base, which would be significantly impaired if this asset were successfully attacked. And we could do down here, you can see the proximity of the assessment. We give it a definition of what that means. Proximity assessment, measurement of spatial proximity of the asset near other important assets. And for this one, we've rated it as catastrophic. So you can see the target is in close proximity, so we give it a 5, catastrophic. Again, the beauty of SOTERIA is we give you all the definitions. You don't need to memorize anything. Anytime you are uncertain about something, just put your cursor over the top of the drop downs or any of the names, and you will get a definition. As I'm sure most of you like to do, you like to put pictures into your vulnerability assessment reports. This certainly gives you the opportunity to do this. This one was done out in the field. So on the tablet, we took a picture of the HVAC system and just uploaded it here. If you want to upload more pictures, you can. You are not limited to just one. You can put as many as you need in there to tell your story. Then we come down, we scroll down, threat identification. We say in this particular case, maybe the primary threat is a CBR, chemical, biological, radiological release internally into the system, which will lead into the mall. Again, this is all hypothetical. You can also put in secondary threats. So let's say I want to put a secondary threat of, I've got active shooter, cyber, feral animal attack. I mean, you've got a nice long laundry list of choices for other threats that are out there. Automobile ramming, UAVs, arson. So let's say, for this particular case, we're going to say, let's say sabotage. We're just clicking through these. So we've added sabotage. Now we're going to go through our Carver methodology. And if you remember, Carver was the CIA methodology used. It's used by special operations. It's been around since the late 60s, early 70s. It's an acronym for criticality, accessibility, recoverability, vulnerability, effect, and recognizability. If you aren't sure what those definitions are, again, hover over the top and it'll give you the definition. And then when you want to say, okay, how critical is the HVAC unit to the overall mall for safety and security? Well, let's call it critical. And what is critical? It's damage or loss of this asset would greatly reduce the asset's output or operations. So you go through your Carver chart, you put in the scores as necessary. Now you get down to your observations and recommendations. So we say, okay, an observation is that access to the HVAC system, it's easily achievable with no external barriers to get to it, and there's no detection systems in place. So we can make a recommendation that we recommend placing fencing around the HVAC exterior handling system, as well as mounting a CCTV camera, which looks directly at the unit. We could also put in passive infrared detection. I mean, you can just go on and on. It's got autocorrect spelling. If you want to add this again to the executive summary, just give it a tap and you can include that. It'll automatically be dropped in your report. Observations and recommendations. I'm going to talk about that on the next screen, but you get the idea of how simple this is. As you go through, you can save your work. It'll save for you in many cases automatically. I always like to hit the save button just to be safe. Let's go over here. Let's look at now. These are our other assets. We've talked about HVAC. The parking garage is one. Your retail stores, your staff, your electrical system, the guests, your visitors to the mall are an asset. Your loading dock is an asset. Let's click on the loading dock. Will you continue? Oh, we would definitely want to continue. Yep. We want to save. It's saving right now. It's uploading our work as we do that, just to make sure. Okay. And we're going to go to the loading dock now. Okay, so here's our loading dock. Loading dock, same thing. Loading dock takes deliveries for various mall stores and the mall itself. We've got our asset prioritization chart that we float over. We can insert our images here, as many as we need. Threat identification. In this one, we're just pretending that maybe vandalism or aesthetic damage is the biggest concern in this area. We can add secondary threats if we want. We've got our Carver scores that we can put in here, our observations, recommendations, and such. Let me do the parking garage quickly, just to give you one more example. Okay, so here we are at the parking garage, houses, vehicles, and staffs, asset prioritization, got our images of it, Carver scores. Let's say IEDs, an improvised explosive device, is the primary threat, and maybe a secondary threat is robbery of these vehicles. Got our observations, recommendations. Now look at this. This is something a little bit different in here. We have now added into it additional recommendations. So we're saying that the title of this, recommended CCTV camera system, as no cameras exist in the garage, we recommend installing a CCTV system with IR capabilities, and we recommend using this particular camera. So we put in a picture of what we recommend, and then we get this question down here. Hey, is this a vulnerability? And we're saying, yes, this is a vulnerability. And we're ranking it as a severity score of 4 of high. It could be severe, but we're going to say it's high. And we're going to give this a due date. And we've put in a due date of here, February 4th of 2020. And what this is telling us is that if this is not corrected, if this vulnerability is not addressed, if a new camera has not put in by February 4th, you are going to get that screen that you saw, that pop-up box at the very beginning, which says, hey, this was supposed to be done by now. Why isn't it done? Or again, you can set days in advance to say, hey, this is due in 2 weeks. Why isn't it done? So it does give you that great flexibility. Okay, so you get the idea. This is how we're prioritizing all of our assets, the ones that we consider to be at risk. Now let's talk about those actual risks and see how dangerous it is and how we're ranking those. So we've got this, we've added our asset, we can add more, but now let's go down here to impacts. So we hit the impact screen, and what we're doing now is we're talking about the different impacts that correlate with these different assets that we've identified. So for example, the impact of an active shooter would it be greater than an improvised explosive device, less than, same as? You get all of these different options in here. And you will see when this is all done at the end what this actually gives you and why we go through this exercise. This may seem tedious to you. It's really not. You will go through these quickly. But basically all of the threats that you've identified, you now compare them against one another for each individual asset. So for example, here, the impact of an improvised explosive device would be greater than the theft of property, obviously. Okay, pretty simple stuff, but you go through here, you've got the impact of sabotage would be the same as a CBRE release. And again, where do these come from? These are what you've identified earlier when you were talking about threats to your assets. Okay, so we go through all of these, then we go to, so that's impact. Now we're going to look at likelihood. Okay, yes, we wish to continue. Okay, now we're talking, we know what the threat is, but how likely is that threat to actually happen? So, let's say here, the likelihood of theft is greater than vandalism. I don't know. I mean, and it's going to be dependent, again, upon this particular mall or this asset. The likelihood of theft is greater than robbery. The likelihood of vandalism is same as robbery. You're just going through, doing the drop-down charts. It's just a tap of your finger on your MSAP device, on your smart tablet when you're out in the field. Or if you want to come back and you have a change of heart, or you just want to do this part of the assessment in your hotel room, you want to lay in bed at night with the laptop open and do this. You don't want to think about it in the field. That's fine. I do that myself all the time. I go out in the field. I take a ton of pictures. I may use the MSAP and I'll turn on the audio recording device or talk to text, and I'll put my notes in. And then when I go back home and I've had dinner and I shower and I sit down with my laptop open, then I can go through all of these more clearly. Okay. Next, I'm going to go look at my design basis threats, my DBTs. Again, same thing. We're talking about active shooter here, an active shooter in the workplace. The HVAC system is the same as the parking garage. We're talking for active shooter. So in this case, it's not really relevant, so we just do a same as. But the staff, an active shooter, is more than, or certainly much more than, of a concern than the electrical system. Okay, so you get the idea. Same thing, IEDs towards the HVAC system is less than what it would be towards the staff, or you could put much less than. Again, this is all hypothetical in whatever your particular asset is. So you go through all of these. You can save them as you go through. Just hit save just to show you. And now I get down to my assessment summary. So I click this. Yes, we know. And what we're going to get is our Carver chart. It will calculate all the numbers for you. It'll tabulate them for you into a nice chart. It'll do your threat assessment graphs to compare the different threats that are out there. So for example, here the yellow sabotage is the likelihood of that is sort of a middle of the road with middle of the road impact, versus over here you've got theft of property resources, which was much more likely, but the impact isn't as high. You've got your weighted value scores, which compare all of them as well. I don't want to get into the whole tabulation of scores and everything. I just want you to see what's capable in here. And then you've got this button over here, start your executive summary. So with the executive summary, what I usually do is, this is where I really sit down and think. I usually make this a page and a half, 2 pages, and I write the overall executive summary. Why this is important, and I can save it. Why this is important is that when I've got this button here, Get Reports, I can go in and I can now take all of these findings and it puts it into a report for me. So essentially you're saving, a good, I always like to say 70% of the time, it saves me report writing, because it puts it all into a nice template, a nice format. I'm going to allow this. And what it's doing is it's downloading my report right now. Let me open this up. I've got a slow internet connection today. And as you see, you get a nice little report at the end. And these logos, I mean, you can put whatever you want in there. I mean, you want to put your company's logo, you want to put a picture of the facility, it doesn't matter. But you'll see, it populates it and starts to write your report for you. list your pictures and everything in there as well. So it really is useful. Now you certainly go back and you have to tweak this, but again, you're saving about 70% of your writing time by getting to this process here. Okay. So I hope you found this a useful demo. I know it's not in-depth complete. It's just meant to be an overview. But I know these videos can get boring sometimes. But this at least shows you a high-level capability and what's possible with Soteria. And please, if you have questions, if you're interested, we'd love to give you a real-life demo. We can do a webinar with you, or even send you out a tablet, and you can go out in the field and try one yourself. So please reach out to us. We look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.